I would like to call to order the Disadvantaged Business and Workforce Advisory Committee meeting for March. Apologize for my tardiness. And awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us in person. Those that can join in person. Yes, hey, Krista. I know that I do share the sentiment that it is good to meet and gather in person every once in a while and create that rapport. So I'm excited to be in person. Tyler is unable to join us today, so I'm joined co-chair by Elaine Valadez. So she's no stranger to this, so it should move along rather smoothly. I think everyone saw the sign-in sheet outside, so hopefully everybody checked their name. So we don't need to do roll call.
Ashanti, could we do introductions in person? Because a lot of times we have cameras off and it's really hard to remember who everybody is.
That is true. That is true. I can definitely start. Ashanti Payne, co-chair and also assistant director of the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity with the Metropolitan Council.
Elaine Valadez. I'm a lead equity inclusion officer with Human Rights, and I am acting as Ashanti's co-chair today for Tyler.
Hi, I'm David Davies. I'm the manager of public involvement with the project office, and I'm sitting in for James Makoviak, who's been kind of taking on this role in recent months, but he's out of office.
Brad Odegaard, I am the construction manager for Systems and SCADA on the Green Line Extension. I am also subbing for Nick Dial this week as he had another commitment.
Brian B., senior project manager with the LMJB.
Krista Siebert, diversity representative for the LMJB.
I'm Mike Tony. I'm with APJB, TV Compliance Manager.
Barb Blau, Association of Contractors.
Gilberto Dunco with Hennepin County.
Julian Guglielmo, Small Business Specialist for Met Council in the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity.
John Tao, Senior Small Business Specialist for the Light Rail Projects. And I think I would also add that Jason Tintes is here helping us out with the technology, and he is recording this meeting and also streaming it as well.
Thanks, everybody. With that, I will hand it over to Elaine.
So the January minutes are included in your packet. If you have any edits, please let us know. You can email that to John or Julianne, and we will make those revisions and send it back out. Next, we're going to move to the Green Line Extension project update. And I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a brief update. A lot of these photos are, I think, probably from February and maybe a few in March. Definitely pre-snow. But Jason, if you want to just cycle through these every 5-10 seconds or so. So we're working our way we're starting actually in Hopkins, right kind of in the middle of the project, working our way east. And what you're seeing is continued work on various elements, especially structural elements. I'll just note on the Beltline Bridge here, we had the lighting up recently, and that's something that the community members have noticed as something that is kind of in its more final condition, even though we've got trail impacts ongoing intermittently. But just a sign of progress for folks who are interacting with the corridor, right, as far as trails are concerned. See a lot of progress over the winter on the structures like the vertical circulation buildings. This is one, the West Tower at Lake Street Station, and I believe the next one is the East Tower at Lake Street Station. So even though, of course, some work is on hold during some of these winter months, some of this structural work was able to advance. And again, things that people can see from the public realm. Of course, work is continuing to advance on the tunnel. We've got cells that are active, that have been active all winter, and that progress is steadily moving forward westward from kind of the middle of the tunnel area, from kind of the Cedar Isles condos area, moving west to West Lake Street. So you've got installation of concrete, the floors, pouring of concrete for the floors. Excavation is continuing as well. So again, that march westward is really is showing to be very good, I guess, from the public's perspective. And then on the east heading here at the tunnel, it's not very accessible to the public, but it's kind of a milestone to be able to see that this is the portal. So eventually, like the entrance to the east side of the tunnel, and it's structurally complete, and now track is being installed on that side of the tunnel. So big milestone there. Got crews working on various elements again throughout the corridor. Like this is what seems to be kind of like a minor piece of work, but again, very visible to community members. It's shield installation for the overhead catenary system off of the Burnham Road Bridge, again at Minneapolis. So, and then we've got Bryn Mawr Station. This is the vertical circulation tower again, just like the West Lake Street stations. Work steadily advancing on the structural aspects, kind of going vertical. I think what's cool is here and at Bassett Creek Valley, you're able to see those big metro trains at T's as you're driving along the highway. So people are starting to get acquainted with the station, not just as, wow, that unfinished thing kind of that's on that I pass by on my commute, but oh, that's like a destination. People are like noting it as a destination. This picture, for example, I was just out there at Bassett Creek Valley, and this is, I think, from February, but out there today, it's got, you know, that same kind of branding at the top of the tower, which is really cool. So again, we've got a lot of progress being made throughout these winter months, and the message here is we're in that 3/4, generally, like we're using 75% complete as far as the project is concerned, and steadily moving forward into the peak of the construction season here. Mike, you know that I'm not as like well-versed on systems contract work. I'll ask Brad if he wants to chime in on anything, but certainly the systems contract has been very active as well. And again, noticeable to the public because they're continuing to see some of this back-end work they don't see like in the systems houses, but they're starting to see more and more of this work like foundation installation and preparation for installation of the traction power substations and signal houses that are adjacent to areas that people traverse. So people are seeing this work progress and kind of being able to mark it as like, okay, milestones for progress as we get closer to 2027 and opening day. So that work is steadily progressing kind of east, and what we're seeing overall is folks noticing some of those milestones in conjunction with like temporary disruptions in places like trails, but what we're messaging is once some of that systems work is complete, we're kind of like, we can almost say we're like done. And that's kind of a bad word to say done, right? But from the community's perspective, we like to note like substantial completion. And they like to see that, even though we've got a long way till 2027, so.
Yeah, once we get, as we work through the heavier portions of the systems contract, getting these structure foundations in place, our impact to the trail system, the street system, really starts to shrink down because we're not going to have closures that are a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We might be in there for a day or half a day just to set the house and then we're gone again. It's those types of things that we're really looking forward to getting to that point where we're able to say we're not going to be impacting some of the amenities that are adjacent to the guideway.
My last thing I'll say on impacts is we've still got a very active season ahead of us in Minneapolis. And so folks will see that. They'll see the work being done, which is great. But they'll also kind of still be experiencing some of those impacts that make the news, right? In our construction update, for instance, we're gonna note another trail closure, near Target Field, starting a week from Monday. So there's still these impacts to be felt, but those impacts also commemorate progress. And every time we kind of get done with a closure like that, we can mark that as, milestone progress.
So, and I don't know if this is a question, maybe combination for the JV and the project office. Did the mild winter have any positive impacts on progress or not really?
Certainly.
Yes, okay.
I mean, they were digging in the ground in February. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the pictures you see here, this 309, 311, 315, those are all substation sites that we actually hadn't counted on getting into until after April. Instead, we're going to be completely done with the foundations here before April 1st, basically, and we're going to be installing substations on top of these foundations in April.
It'll be a week like we did we had like 5 or 6 back in October, I think, of last year. Just to be able to do it all in a week, and we said like 6 of them. So I don't know what the number is this time, but between the houses and the signal houses and traction power houses, they're half day or a day activity. It's just on a piece of cement. You'll see it with all the cranes.
So, it is, because it doesn't track together, so we're 92% billed on the project, we're 70%, 75% complete. So bigger work was done before with all the rail and all of that, or?
Yeah, though, that number, Barb, I'd have to get back to you to say exactly what, that's like kind of the general number we've been using and how that syncs up with like the dollars.
Yeah.
Or actual work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a work versus dollars kind of there'll be a difference there.
Yeah, if you want, I can absolutely kind of like dig into.
No, as
what
I
that
look at
number
like,
is.
when I look at the ones that still aren't at their contract yet or anything, that I'm like, okay, so we've got how much left?
I mean, I think we're right around that 90% done, certainly with structures in general on the project. Obviously, the systems contractor, we started later, so we're really working in the first half of the alignment, so we've still got a good ways to go.
But we didn't stop Siemens from building the traction powers
No.
foundations. We didn't stop the housing. We have all the poles. We have all the cable. We have all the material. It's all in the Honeywell facility, warehouse where
It's
they
been
can work
billed
on
and
it.
paid.
It's
blah, blah,
billed
blah.
and paid, and they didn't stop working on it, even though it hasn't been installed yet. We have it. It's readily available. It's been paid material, stored material, at least for the systems.
I just had to get it clear in my head.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
One question was what is it, the Kenilworth landscape contract? When is
My
that?
understanding, John, is that would go out this fall, but like, that it's getting prepped to go out to bid Q3 or Q4 of '24, but I'm not totally, that's just kind of what we talked about. I'd say the last time I heard an update about that was late last year, so. Because there was discussion of when to set it forward, but that's my understanding at this time. We can track it though, just to make sure.
No, that's good information to know. I think, especially for our DPEs that maybe could do that work and get them ready, and thinking of a couple, Barb, that could do that work. Well, actually, let me miss it, because I have no idea what the capacity and size of that work is. So, but definitely opportunity for DBEs.
It's landscaping specifically, it's a special landscaping package in the Kenilworth corridor. There is landscaping that's done in the civil contract, some minimal, but there's a special landscaping package that was prescribed from basically Lake Street up through Bryn Mawr, up to almost like 394.
So hardscapes.
Primarily plant materials.
Plant,
and-
yeah.
And, because there's a specific like a.
There was a
prairie-
community-driven
prairie
process
Ecosystem type thing.
Shocking.
to,
All you had to do was say
Mitigate.
Kenilworth,
Yeah.
that, we knew what it was.
right, to mitigate for the loss of vegetation in that area.
They're putting in orchids.
The driving force on when that goes out is obviously when we're gonna have the Kenilworth ready for them to go to work in, right? So we don't wanna get it on the street too soon, too late.
Tunnel progress, basically, will drive that work.
Yes. Yeah.
What about the, I know that y'all just had the pre-bid for the Hopkins maintenance up. When is that gonna,
Oh, boy.
do you have
I
a
don't have that.
ETA when
information
that's gonna be decided?
Yep, so we held the pre-bid meeting last week on March 20th and had a DBE meet and greet afterwards, and then the bids for that particular procurement are due on May 7th.
Okay.
And then the contract is supposed to be awarded later this year. And then I think timeline for the whole contract being done is 1 year or between 1 and 2 years, depending on like how everything else kind of lines up together. So
You know, John, I used to get notified about those types of things, and not anymore. Could you check and see? Probably not on the mailing list for meet and greets for DVEs.
sure.
Thanks.
Especially with yesterday's event and stuff like that happening.
One last question on that landscaping piece, community driven. Did we pull it into the federal process, or is it?
It's within the scope of the project. It's definitely part of like the scope of the it's not like local work. Like it's a,
It will be a public solicitation.
yes.
Any other questions? All right, do we still mail out? Yes, we mailed out the DB and workforce reports earlier this week. I remember saying that, John. I do pay attention to you. And for review, so they're also available on the advisory committee page. So I'll turn it over to John for DB report and achievements.
Thank you. Next slide, Jason. Yep, so, yeah, what we have here is just the achievement as of January 31st for the civil and systems contract. As Barb was mentioning earlier, you know, the contract for the civil contract is about 90% billed out, and the systems contract is about close to, what is it, 75%? Yeah, 74% filled out. So things are progressing pretty well. For us, the civil contract, our team has been working to connect with DBEs towards the end of the contract. Some DBEs, if they're done, trying to finish out the closeout process for that and confirming their final payments. And then preparing for later on this year when we have a new contract for the Hopkins Rail Support Facility. So that'll be added onto here when it's awarded, and we'll have a new contractor for that as well. Next slide. And then the chart here is just showing the progress over time for the DBE participation. You know, as the contract for the civil contract has progressed along, you know, participation has gone up. But then I would also note that I think Dale even said at the start of the project that as the project winds down, this number will go back down. So I haven't seen that yet, but looking at the DBE participation, there are some final DBE credit award and determinations that we have to go through as well to review and come to a conclusion as for the final achievement. But for us, it's a good sign that we have a huge buffer between 16% and 23%. So, next slide. For the systems contract, you kind of notice that trend back downward towards the goal and their commitment level. So that is as that systems contract is progressing along. Next slide. And then since our last quarterly meeting, the contracts for all construction contracts, is about 285 million for DBEs on this project on the construction side of things. And there's been some change orders where DBE participation was increased, so that's very good for us to see. And previous to this, the last time we reported, it was about 282 million, so about 3 more million was added. And then next slide. So this is just the pie chart showing where the dollars are coming from and where the DBEs are home based out of. And for the local small businesses, that increase of 3 million went to the Minnesota firms. So that was something else that we're happy to report and see, is that dollars going back into the Minnesota contractors and Minnesota community to further help them. Next slide. Yep, and then I think that's it from my slide.
One question, I guess, both for civil and systems. I know that trend and historically, once we get towards the end of the project, DB participation goes down. But is that something that we should set in stone, or should we just be resigned to that, or?
It doesn't truly go down. We've talked about this for multiple projects. The difference between, with DBE, you're talking contract value. We already know that contract value, and it's gonna fluctuate a little bit. But if you see that across the board, when you talk about trending down, it's project total. So, if you watch across, it's kind of trending across with a little fluctuation. So when it comes to the project end, it's still the project total, which still should remain pretty strong. And I can very comfortably say that. This has been yes, of course, there's been DB, struggles and stuff. There always will be on every aspect. But the participation, it's nice to see the change, the growth, and stuff.
So with that, then I would ask, as I was,
Yeah.
crunching some of these numbers, and that's where my percentage stuff was coming into head, was, are you guys anticipating any decreases that we're not seeing already? When I look at, say, Crocus, that's been 200,000 billed, but they were originally committed at 15 or 100.
I think your
million.
your participation really depends on the contracts that have value left. So if you
Right.
have a contractor with a high DVE percentage, they're contributing a higher percentage, they're gonna stay there.
Yeah.
If you go to ones that don't have as high a percentage, you might see a little decrease. It's really dependent on what workforces are left at the end of the project. So it could stay at 23 the whole way if they all have good DVE participation to the bitter end, right?
And you and I haven't had these spirited conversations, but I could care less what the end result is for the end 23%. I wanna
You
make
want it to
sure
keep
that,
going.
no, I don't even say go find more. I'm saying if you committed this much to this contractor, I don't wanna see them drop down even though if the goal is exceeded.
Money
Because that
taken
to me
away.
is the small business that got screwed in the project. And I've just seen enough of those. That's kind of where my question was going. When I see some of these that have a lot of value yet, that haven't been billed
Yeah.
yet,
Mhm.
are they gonna get cut? Do you anticipate kind of thing?
Well,
That's where
We
I'm
have
going.
to we have to replace or do what we can. The only time we haven't been able to replace, and we've had the conversation before, is when the scope has changed. So the DBE scope, the work that was, for that DBE is taken out. whether it be a contractor or a supplier, that's another big piece. Then when that's taken out, there isn't a replace, because that scope is gone. But when there's an increase, also in scope, which is really nice to see, the trend has been increase.
And we've been
Yeah.
able to look at the reds, you know,
Yeah.
those are the ones for me.
Yep.
When I look at the ones that there hasn't been a lot of change on yet, I just wanna make sure, you know, I looked at Casillas, I looked at Crocus, I looked at some of these that still have a lot of value left on their original.
They were,
Is it fair to, following
they
up
should
on,
not be on there anymore, we've talked about that. Casillas was removed because of scope being changed.
Okay, they're still on here.
Yeah, that's not us.
Okay,
That needs to
And
be
that's-
council requested
and that's a
again.
500,000, so that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, check that. I look
Yeah.
at Crocus Hill, I'm like, okay, 207,000
Yeah.
billed, but supposedly a 16 or $1.6
And I
million
think
contract.
Crocus was switched over to B&L Supply. I think, don't hold me to that one. I'll check, they'll remind me tomorrow. Give me a
Yeah.
shout.
Cause
but
so
yeah.
those are just the ones, cause then that
Casillas
to
Glass
me is
should not
the,
be on there.
you know, for Crocus, I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot of
Yeah.
freaking contracts you
Right.
didn't get then, so what
Yeah.
happened?
Casillas, we've been asking for some time, because it does give, since this is a public document, it gives false information.
And I would say too, just to Barb's point, I think the lesson that I take in this is, you know, from the agency standpoint, we understand that, you know, if something gets taken away, then you have to replace or good faith effort. You know, the goal is to
Right,
get
but
that
if the
participation.
scope is
No,
taken away.
I understand that, Krista. What I'm saying is, Barb's point is that even when, whether it's scope, whether it's other factors where we're replacing or it's
business
easy to
costs,
get
yeah.
lost in the numbers that this is
Right.
impacting real people
Oh,
and real
absolutely.
businesses in their lives and livelihood.
I
That's just the
couldn't
lesson
speak
that I
stronger
want
about that, yeah.
to make sure that we don't forget.
Well,
Oh, I will never.
unfortunately,
forget.
these guys have been hearing me a
You
lot
have to
saying the same
realize-
thing, we want them to come out
For-
right.
And I'm gonna speak very openly right now. When you bring that up, Ashante, I really appreciate it, because that's why
Yeah.
I'm in my role. And one of the greatest people I know regarding that is sitting at this table. And it will always drive me to do exactly what you're saying. When it comes to a business not being able to perform maybe that piece of work, whether it be because of our scheduled terrible delay that we had, we lost a lot of workforce for some of our DVEs. But we were able to work with them to help bring it back, or to help partner them with somebody else, a fellow DVE or whatever, to bring it forward. We have had a business on this project that we did have to remove because they were not capable of performing on the landscaping side the work. But the due diligence and the good faith efforts that the subcontractor working with them for that piece, wow, we didn't see that 10 years ago. So I'm working with a contractor, you know, on a team that really is cognizant and caring about that piece
someone
right
else
there.
take over that scope, the landscaping?
We already went through that last year with you guys, with John.
I don't
meetings.
remember, can you just recap?
Yeah,
please?
I am right now. I'm just stating that, it was a year ago. We worked very closely with John, which was great. And Agent, Hoffman McNamara, H&M, regarding what efforts and who out there is capable of performing that to the council's expectations, to their warranty and everything. Those things are all having to be replaced now too, aren't they? So, but the good faith efforts were taken to try and replace with a qualified firm, and there was not one. But there was other areas where we added, you know, for somebody else's group.
So for me, I would just say that in the next 2 meetings, if we could make sure that's cleaned up for ones that.
That's council. That's not our report.
Could we get that cleaned up?
Barb, I would have already cleaned it up for you. I don't want them on there, you know?
Yeah. So, noted, we can do that. I
John
think
and I will
that,
work together.
Yeah, we pull that from the report that they share with us,
Yeah.
each pay app.
Yep.
So,
So they
Thanks,
have
John.
to pay out.
Well, we'll keep it at the top of our mind and make sure, because yes,
We'll do it, we'll
I
do
mean,
it.
it's,
I'll even give you 2 meetings, it's just
I
helpful
love
for me to be able to see that and not question it when I'm sitting here.
And you're not the only one, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, we even go, wait a minute, oh, that's right, you know. So to have the files to be able to look back, yeah. So thank you, Ashante, and yes, you guys know, please, that we take this very serious. You know, and it's the negative ones are tough, but it's also nice to be able to see the growth after the scheduled delays that has taken
Well, and
place.
for us, and, Gilbert and I
Yeah.
and Julianne, I mean, we're looking at the next project and we're trying to find a way to mitigate any of those things.
Yep.
So as we're hearing it in real time, that's helpful for us to say, okay, what went wrong and is there a way that we
Those
can
lessons learned.
fix it? So, yeah,
10 years of conversations,
of course.
enough
It
talk.
gets better,
There's-
no,
there's-
it gets better every time,
I
we have
know.
to admit that.
Well, look at the number, you know, I mean, it seriously does, but the greatest thing is a little less talk and a little more action.
Yep.
And this project, yes, I would love to do, that's why I have a great thing about something coming up regarding our DVE part that you're gonna love, because we're gonna ask a couple people in the room to help participate with it. We'll leave that and let people wait, right? Cause my good faith efforts.
Yeah, I think I would have one more question to add, I think kind of along the line of what Barb asked, is Blackstone contractors. Their contract was for about 9 million, and then there's a reduction there, and I don't quite have like a understanding of what that reduction was.
We're still trying to get Blackstone additional work where we can. But based on what they do or are capable of doing, we're like 99% done with that type of work. So they still are, they're working there today, right? So they've still got some PMW walls that they're building, but any opportunity or change order that fits their scope, we are reaching out to them and trying to get them as much additional work as we can.
Their original reason in the fluctuation, there was that change in scope, and so now we're trying to add to other areas, okay? Just like Ashante, like you asked. So the scope was reduced, but now we're still trying to give them other areas to get them back up to what they were hoping to.
yeah, I just think, yes, I think John, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but just in terms of, eventually we're gonna have to close this project out for the feds. And those are the kinds of things they wanna know. If we don't know why it was reduced, it could be a very good reason, but if we don't know,
Yep.
then we're gonna look bad.
Right, but that's why those great meetings that we're having along the way, will have that information, you know, on the council side. The clarity in conversations this time compared to previous.
Oh, yeah. I'm
one of
gonna
the
leave
good
it to you and John,
improvements.
y'all will work it out.
I would point them to the 82 million added in DVA dollars. I think that's a
No, that's
pretty
always,
good number, right?
look,
And
and
not
I,
focus on the 4 red ones so much.
Or,
yeah,
Right?
yeah, I, look, overall, like I said, from an owner standpoint, I'm pleased with the DB participation and how it's gone through this project. And even though I'm a late joiner, to this committee, to this process, I'm pleased with the DB progress. But again, like I said, there are some stories that are gonna have impacts to individuals that get lost in, we report all these numbers and it's important, all these
it's
goals
the
and all that
individual
stuff we have.
stories.
But, yes, so great, I'm glad
But-
and I've appreciated the partnership along the way for sure. So I don't wanna have that get lost either, so,
I love it.
yes.
John, is there an approval process for reductions in scope and changes in EV participation?
Yeah, the council's cars, I mean, Brad, you could probably,
Well, yeah, I mean, the process to do a change order, whether it's adding scope or reduce scope, it's pretty extensive. It goes through design review, environmental reviews. But, really it always comes back to what's the instigator of the change? And, in a lot of cases, the instigator of the change is something that we as the owner don't necessarily have control over, right? It might be, our interaction with another project, like, maybe Hennepin County is rebuilding Glenwood on either side of the bridge, and maybe some of that scope ends up having to get shifted because you got, the other project needs to progress on their timeline and it doesn't align with ours. So things get handed from one project to another, and so it results in a deduct here and an add over there. The hope is obviously that the DBE community sees the same dollars, they just see them in a different pot. But the problem, of course, is that there's no way to guarantee that those dollars end up in the same contractor's pocket. And so that's the real challenge. But, the why things get deducted, removed from scope, there's a pretty robust, approval process, but the instigator is often not in our control. We're reacting to other things that are happening to the project.
I think the reason for having some control or process is just to avoid, the prime arbitrarily, taking money or reducing scopes. But if it's project initiated, that's difficult to, control.
Yeah, and we don't see a lot of prime contractor requests to drop scopes. Usually it's, we're going to the contractor and saying, we've recognized this issue. This is how we feel like we need to solve the issue.
And then I'll just say too that yes, we do have internal and regulatory controls, both for removals, replacements,
Right, that's what I was talking about,
reductions, those sorts of things. And there's reasons, again, that are, as we've already talked about, beyond our control. But yes, there is some assurances to make sure that there's some integrity to the process and that we can account for it.
Right.
At the end, we've definitely got to be able to explain it for sure.
Yeah.
And over to you, Elaine.
Thanks, guys.
So now we're going to talk about the workforce participation. Next slide, please. So the hours worked in January were 12,931. This is the lowest participation we've seen throughout the project for women in a month. But overall, they're at 7.85. For POCI, overall, they're at 25.3, 16.6 for the month. The unspecified was very small, so that's a good thing. Next slide, please. And these are the hours broken down.
I'm sorry. Can you go back one slide?
Yep. Jason, oh, there.
Please remind me what that blue monthly LMJV represents.
That is what the participation for the month. So they were at 2.9 for the month of January, 16.6 for the month for POCI.
Gotcha. I was trying
Wait till
to
you see.
have my brain work fast. It wasn't working fast enough to.
Too many
that you
colors.
removed it. Okay, thank you.
What happens when we don't meet? No.
Thanks, Jason. So these are the overall hours for the month of January and what each separate participation was. Next slide. I'm gonna change this slide. I was talking to John. It's those little months of getting really, really tiny. So I'm gonna switch them over to quarterly. But this is the participation for women throughout the project. There have been some peaks and valleys, but like I said, the month of January was exceptionally low. And the next slide. And this is the participation for POCI. People of color, I'm sorry, Indigenous people. Overall, they're at 25.3%, 193,313 hours. Next slide. This is the participation for the trucking that we are counting. CTS is, their work is complete. Rock-On didn't have a whole lot of increase, neither did MBE, but I'm sure that will increase as the season increases. Next slide, I think we go to the systems. So the systems contract were 3,176 hours, and the blue line, 9.13, was their participation for the month of January for women, and 19.49 for POCI. Overall, for women, they're 11.28 and 20.42% for POCI, and 1.99 unspecified. Next slide. And this was the breakdown in terms of the participation. These are hours, by the way, for the month of January. And the next slide. So this is the disaggregated percentages for the different constituency groups. I don't think I need to read these, do I? All right, go to the next slide. Nice work. These are the hours broken down and the percentages. And I did want to point out, project total hours, 3,135,394 hours. And I think that is it. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question. Just a comment. One, I know that we're not at 32 and 20.
Nope.
But I think the percentages probably certainly for Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, and Asian workforce is highest in the region. I would confidently say that. But the thing that jumps out at me on the system contract is the 0 for Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, and Asian women. Not to say that I'm aware enough to know that's always been an area where we don't get a lot of participation, but I'd be really interested to any insights that anyone has relative to not just specific to the civil contract, but industry-wide. What some of the insights may be relative to that.
Well, I think largely in the systems contract, they're doing electrical work. And the industry has lagged in terms of getting people of color and women into the trade. I think they're doing a better job. Certainly groups like Summit.
Well, let me just, if I could just speak to that, for January it was 0,
Yeah.
So
Oh, that was just,
that was just
January.
Michelle Barnes, I know it from
Okay,
Premier,
all right.
was off it, and I know
See,
Gunner's
that's
had
my
that.
brain again, not working fast
Yeah.
enough.
You
So
know,
that
but
was just
I
January.
think we're looking at 5 women,
can
of
only use that
the
once.
of the 30 electricians, I think 5 of them were women. 4 of them are women.
Yeah.
Michelle Barn was an apprentice, so they cut from 20 down to 7 in January. That got affected. Now, she has not been back on yet, but they brought another woman on. I know Gunner's had minority women on POCI, women on their contract. Shannon, who has been on it from the beginning, we've had a POCI woman at the beginning for the first 2 months. That didn't work out, but I know it's not a zero for the whole project.
No, it's just.
I
the
would
month of
think if you
January.
took all the women hours, I would think they'd probably be about 17 or 18%. It's still lower, but I'd say it's not zero.
Okay, that's how I'll read. Thank you for that clarification. I thought it was zero for the,
No,
for the project.
no, it's just January.
Okay.
The snow, recent snow has affected Ashante's.
You know what? Maybe I can just I need a vacation. Maybe that's it.
Didn't you just have one? You're having
Elaine-
monthly vacations?
Elaine, we're not discussing that right now. All right.
So in your packet, the actual hours,
Elaine, I had a quick question. So third from right, that men 29, what is that? I just couldn't read that, something percent. That third from the right.
it should be,
Typo in the title.
I think
Is it
that's a typo.
It should just be men percent.
29%, okay.
I apologize, I
That's
all
one of
didn't
those where
notice that. We
That's
could
what I
blame,
think
we
you're
could
typing in
blame
one box.
William.
right. It's just a percentage for
Been
men.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just a percentage for men, I'm sorry.
Last week. Where'd the event go?
I finished this
Okay.
particular chart late at night. Tyler was wondering why I was working then, but I had to get this into William. Any other questions?
That would be a no.
All right. Kristen.
Pondering.
Turn it over to Krista.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, next slide, please. And another one. All right, you guys, he just wanted me to buzz right over DBE. Did you see that?
You said in another one, he thought you meant this.
Okay. Back to the DBE one, as you guys see in the packets, there's a list, from last month. So we are talking February, the DBEs that were there, on site, lower numbers. This month, we've already added 3 more, as we just talked about with Black, being on site and stuff. So there's great progress moving forward. Note that currently, and I didn't do a slide for this one regarding our good faith efforts with our DBEs that we were just talking about. There's 2 things in the works. One was that Lunda hosted a DBE meet and greet at the LMJB. So we did a combined, first ever Lunda small business meet and greet. It was great, Barb? Well attended. Leadership presented, but the better thing is we had Alex, one of our estimators, do a lot. I've never heard an estimator since Clyde Turway, Gilbert, nice friend, talk the way he did and provide the great education in a snippet for the DBEs that were in attendance and offer his assistance moving forward in so many different areas. So it'll be cool to watch the progress moving forward with the new planning for the DBEs with Lunda and the LMJB. The other great thing in regards to the LMJB that we will be doing this later summer, early fall, and that I'm asking for our advisory committee to assist with this, and is we are going to be hosting a DBE day. Might not be the whole day, but we're gonna just right now say a DBE day, where during that time where the DBEs come, they're invited to come to our office. We will be hosting an education piece. Part of it's gonna be planning on the job end. The closeout pieces, the expectation of compliance, what are those needs spelled out for them of what they should be preparing for or be already working on because some are already done. So we wanna make sure that is there for them. The resource, the help and everything regarding closeout. The other piece to that is the piece where we step in and I say, okay, I wanna do lessons learned. You know, and have them have that ability to either fill out a paper, but I'd love to have the open conversation with a group, and then have them give us their feedback later in the survey, so they're comfortable with speaking. That is something we would be able to share with this group for moving forward. I think it would be an extremely valuable tool, not just for the Blue Line, but also for us, the Wanda, CS McCross, and the LMJV, and our non-DBE subcontractors, to have that information moving forward for future projects. And then it would be ending with a mingo on the project. You know, with both LMJV, Wanda, CS McCross, and our subs, both non-DBE and DBE. So there's that, and I really would like to have help and feedback and, stuff from the advisory committee, So there's the DBE stuff. Any questions, you guys?
Krista, will you be talking about punch list items as well, how to complete punch list
Yep.
items?
That's a big part of the project closeout.
Claims and, what do you call it, change orders and the likes?
Wrapping them up
Wrapping
and
them up.
everything up.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Very
really wanna
positive.
provide that clear communication with them, but also education pieces and resources from our team.
Commend that effort.
Thank you. I seriously look forward to that piece, because as you and Barb know, that's where I got my start, it's on the side, so. No, it's great, and John, we had talked about doing that bigger report. I did not have the late evening time to be able to get it for today's meeting, but let's work on it together, we'll talk so I make sure I get the right information put together for each month updated.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question too regarding like the meet and greet and the resources you were providing DBEs. As a model or best practice, is that something that, as a contractor, you guys may put that more on the front end of a project rather than at the end of a project?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And not just project specific, but yearly practices. Overall, building that, network, that relationship, that education for DBEs. That way it isn't project specific. They already know, hey, here's a bid list from Lunda. I know what my expectations already are. I know what I need to be doing. I know who I can contact. And then yes, when it comes to the projects, yes, that will be taking place.
John, specifically, I just wanna make sure that my brain connected what she was answering and what you were asking. Were you talking about the one that they had last week specific? Or
Well,
were you just talking in general about what
In
she's
general.
planning to do?
like the resources that you're offering to small businesses, because I'm looking at it as like, all right, now the contract's winding down, resources are kind of late if you're trying to like help DBEs.
This will be
Yeah,
my
what-
sixth
and-
outreach thing for our
Yeah.
DBEs on this project for education. There has been from the day I started on the project, and it's always been advertised here, the education. This is number 6.
But I
So,
think
And that's
just
specific to
to
this
clear
project.
that up.
But what the event that they had last week was about all upcoming stuff for London, so it wasn't
Yeah.
JV, but it was really, when she talked about what Alex did, it was really well done. They had their partner, their mentor protege, talking about what it was like to work for them on that side of it. They had resource tables around the room for those, for people that could help other people. It was a really well done event that I haven't seen done in a while like that, so.
Thank you, Barb. I felt the same way. It was fun sitting, watching.
So I think from John's point, this kind of discussion is also helpful when you're bidding a project.
Yes.
Knowing that you're gonna have to allocate X amount of resources towards the closeout, I think that's what John is trying to say. That's why it would make sense in future projects to put this kind of training, so to say, ahead of the bidding, so that they know that I gotta plug in X amount of hours when it comes to this closeout phase.
The fun thing to be able to talk about with that, you guys, with moving forward, is London did not have that task force before. that had pulled the resources together to be able to utilize that. And the great thing is now we do. I like calling it the dynamic duo because you have Tracy, Jackson, and myself working together. And with resources such as yourselves, to be able to move forward, to create that plan so that when projects come up, guess what? Here's our DVE, what to do. But it's always, like I told with Alex, I couldn't believe, I was blown away when I heard him say this because I was so blue in the face other times with others about bidding process and scope review meetings. I would always meet with our DVE saying, did you ask the estimators for a scope review meeting? Oh, no. Or yes, I did, and the estimator said no. Those scope review meetings with our DVEs are the make or break of projects that are not being done. I guarantee if you start seeing more and more of those, you're gonna see stronger participation and building of capacity with our DVEs. So there's my little soapbox, but serious scope reviews,
Absolutely.
and we used to do them with Clyde.
We're gonna have high expectations for that now with the two
Oh,
of
great,
them.
I'm off at the project, no, I'm just kidding, bring it on,
With you and
seriously,
Tracy?
bring on the
Yes.
challenge. Because I see it as a great growth opportunity if done the right way. With support with great people like this one right here that's gonna walk out now. No,
Yeah, I am actually.
I mean, not walk out, project.
No, I have a hard 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
So
so
I
it's-
apologize.
Look at these two,
Thank you for the info.
hey you guys, thank you.
Outreach team is
Great.
stretched thin during spring break.
Oh,
Great presentation again, I love it.
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. You guys, though, I speak from the heart, you know that. When it comes to the growth of the DVE education and follow through and what can be done, bring it on,
I believe
right?
that, but no, I'm saying I'm a very good listener. And so,
You can't see
I
anything
can't,
out here.
I was just gonna say the same
You
thing.
figure it all out.
I love
But,
this shot.
but yes, so as you were talking, ideas are popping in my head, so.
Footprints.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right?
Yep.
Footprints, you guys. We talked about this because I wish I could have been here at pre-bid, right? I wish, like we did at the Capitol, Elaine can attest to that, from the project through, but we weren't. So instead, we are creating footprints. Hopefully, that we can push forward. Not just with Aldridge or with Lunda, but with other contractors then to utilize.
And I must say, Krista, that is so important towards building, a DPE base, increasing capacity and making sure that they survive.
Yeah,
So that I commend that.
sometimes I read lists of projects and who's listed on projects, and knowing the DVEs for 20 years now, I go, whoa, somebody did not do scope review with them. They just said, oh, they'll just put them in the, and then what happens during the project? Kapowie, right? So, On the contractor side, as I am today, I will do what I can. And note that if you guys ever, John knows questions, yeah, because some of them are tough. We're dealing with a tough nut right now, huh, John? So, update next month. But note for that upcoming event, it would be really valuable for me to have you guys a part of that. So, thank you.
Can I ask a question on that event last week? Was that for all your subs or? was-
DVE.
Oh,
And it
okay.
isn't they weren't like our current
Oh.
DVEs, it was the industry's DVEs that do highway heavy, contracting, supplying, special services. So anybody that fit in that realm, were invited through the AWC, through NAWIC, through the Met Council, through MnDOT, invite went out to many, and there were 50 contractors. So it was great, thank you.
One thing that I'll bring up is, it's great to sort of try and build a roadmap for particularly closeout portion and try and help the DB community.
Yep.
I'll tell you right now, there are a lot of non-DB subcontractors and contractors out there that don't have any idea how to properly plan for closeout, and how to allocate and understand what they're gonna be
Agreed.
expected of. So it needs to be a wider audience.
Yep.
It needs to be everybody.
Our leadership will probably come back and say, let's do it for everybody. Because I say at the end, let's have a big mingle with everybody, including those at the council, you know, from every aspect, downstairs from our office, you know. It's an opportunity for us to be a team and to have everybody be a team. So thank you. You know what, moving forward, that's what I'm gonna push for that. Thank you.
Closeout is
And
hard.
just so that you know, and these guys know, especially with my council, I've been working on the DVE side since the first, well, since wastewater treatment plant, Pig's Eye. So that dates me right there. 20 plus years, don't they? I wear well, no. But yeah, I look for it. I mean, to be with a contractor that's open and willing, like Jay Dunn was on the Capitol, like A&P parts were, you know, A&P is a great difference now. But to see the evolution of everybody and the open and want.
Before you said that, I was thinking exactly that. Because
Thank you.
DBE is one pool of one certification. Now, Hennepin County, we use primarily the set.
Yep.
And there's crossover, but there are some on the set who want to move over to highway heavy. And so attending this,
Yep.
listening and understanding what goes on in highway heavy, that would
Yep.
be so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's kind of what I say too with workforce, you guys. Yeah, our goals, very strong believer of our, you know, women in my, you know, POCI. But when it comes to the table, it's the diversity that's brought to the table by each individual. It's not the picture. It's not the picture overall. And when you come together as a team, so I do our workforce training, and people say POCI and female. Yes, I can show you my sign-in sheet. But there's other people also, because guess what? When you embrace the others, everybody, we all work together. You know, instead of excluding the good old white boy club, and I a group, yeah, because 20 years ago, holy yuck. But it's pretty cool to show you some stuff coming up with workforce. So again, I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate this conversation.
Can we go to
All
the
right.
next slide, because I have a question about it.
Uh-oh. It's a pretty picture. What are you talking about, this next slide? Next slide, please. That one? Just kidding. Next one. There we go. All right, you guys, hold on before you ask a question. Let me present the slide. Okay, thank you. So what I showed you, usually I show you 1 month, which I would be showing you February right now. But I thought I need to show you the trend. Okay, January was our almost no one on site work month, except for on the Kenilworth Town, correct? That was some fun pictures. Anyways, and you see the breakdown, and I don't have the hours on this one, but anyways, of each of the trades for January and then over to February. And I hope I don't have a typo, but what is your question, Elaine?
Well, I'm seeing zeros for the month of January for truckers. And there was,
For female and minority, yes, I'm POCI.
you have zeros on there.
Yes, 0 for female and POCI.
There was participation.
Now,
In
this
the
is
trucking.
January, so I'll go back.
So you might want to look at that again, because
I had 7 hours of one person. And I double checked it, but for certified payroll in LCP tracker. So I'll rerun it again and correct it when need be.
I haven't seen the February, so I don't know anything about that, but I know there were hours in the trucking.
But as you can see, you guys, February, most of them, except for our rockstar painters, but you guys were talking hundreds of hours, not thousands. You know, well, you know what I'm talking about. But it is so cool. It's great to go out to the job site and see everybody and talk to the individuals that are out there right now and that were out there during, you know, the 50-degree days and then go out there during our snow days, because we still worked, by the way, on Monday and Tuesday. Drive was awesome, I loved it. But the hours are great, participation has increased. As you can see, they're starting to come back. So. Yes,
I say the stuff
Ashante,
that jumps out, that's what jumps out to me is the painters, so.
right? Me too. But that's
what
why
jumps
I
off the page, so.
I wish I would have had the hours on here like I did for our staff meeting we had this morning. Because people are like, what, that's right, and I to see the hours, it was, then they're like, okay, that's cool. You know, what was that?
I was actually gonna ask that if it is that Rainbow who's doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, Jay Long is the project manager for them. And he kept telling me, cause a couple of years ago, we kept saying, oh, painters are at 0, what's going on? And Jay Long kept saying, just wait, just you wait. And so, November, I gave him kudos to you, John, in an email out to everybody. You know, I said, you told me to wait and that I'd be happy. I said, I'm not happy, I'm elated to see that. You know, it's great, so. As you can see, some of the other trades too, electricians are not, you know, I mean, they are increasing. You're gonna see a great increase, by the way, in participation. I'm gonna say for the industry over the next 4 years, a good steady increase, by the way, for both female and POCI. And I can say it with, strong from what I'm seeing. So it's pretty exciting. Next slide, please. I'm the one who keeps saying move it along. Look at that. Oh boy, that was fun. But I thought I better keep it in there because I show you every month. Okay, there was not a lot of happenings. And then CS McCrossin just gave me theirs this morning. And they had 5 returns. And I'll give you a guess to what column they go in. No, the white mill. So they are crane operators. You know, so right now, that's what it is. But from January to February, for us, the in and out has not been much. You're gonna see a lot when it comes to March and April and May.
Now that you
Yes.
mention it, I knew there was a while back that the 49ers were doing it. Most of us know this, but it takes a while for someone to become a crane operator, and it's pretty rigorous in the process. And I know a while back, the 49ers were doing something specific to kind of build that pipeline up. Is that still something that's
It's
going on?
speeding up so
Okay.
great. And
Just
I didn't
curious.
plant this question, thank you, Ashante. So with that being said, before we go on to the next slide, a great example is a story on our project with Glenda. We hired an individual 2 years ago, Isabel Schultz, from the Building Strong Communities program. She wants to be a 49er. Everybody said, oh, it's gonna take you a while before you're up in that crane, but there's so many other things to be doing. Usually, a first day 49er apprentice, for their first, I'd even say half a year, you're an oiler. You go around and oil the equipment, right? Isabel oiled for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. She is a crane operator as a second-year apprentice. So yes, there is a fast track program between Lunda and and Steve Toohey, you know, the apprenticeship coordinator and the training center. Depending on the skills and capabilities, they will fast track those individuals. And it not necessarily just for crane, but other equipment too. So it's pretty cool. And we're hoping there's other unions starting to do more of that. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I could be an oiler, but I think I can get on a roller. And,
Oh, I'll do the water trick. No, the roller with you. Okay, we're gonna
look
have
at
one
Mike's
out.
like, no.
We're gonna bring one out to the job site, Ashante. I'll invite you out when we have
I
it.
don't know if I could climb that ladder to the crane. No way.
Oh, I've been up in a crane
No way.
when I was with A&P. Next slide, please, because there's some really cool stuff to show you guys. But this is, hey, look at that picture. Women in Construction Week. Wow, it was fun. It was great. Each year, there's more and more, but you guys, what I'm gonna say about it, and I tell our team leading up to it and the week of, every week is every 1 week. Our teams are celebrated on the LMJV on the civil project. But it is Women in Construction Week, so of course I have to host our Rosies and Robbies, which was our seventh one of this for the project, fourth one for Women in Construction Week. And again, Julia, so sorry, because I would have loved to have had you there. Elaine and Barb were there, thank you guys for attending. We had 50 women and men, so Rosies and Robbies inclusive, together at the Light Rail Project for a roundtable discussion during lunch about retention. Many stories were told, some of them should have been dialed back a little, but you know. Maybe. You know, but what was great is it was supposed to talk about what has been done, what is being done, and then moving forward. That moving forward piece we really didn't get to dive into deeply, which then flows us to the next one, which is going to be Rosie's and Robbie's candid conversations, a little less talk, a little more action. You're gonna hear that from me a lot now. But it was a great event. There were many things throughout the week. And next slide, please.
You've already talked about the next slide. We can skip it.
Excuse me?
You've already talked about this next slide.
No, I haven't.
Oh, no, that was the next
You
one.
know what? Okay. Next slide, I guess.
No.
No, go ahead.
No.
I thought the next slide was the.
Anyways, ladies
estimating.
of Lunda and LMJV lunch, which I still giggle about, but I have to celebrate it because what Lunda did on Friday of Women in Construction Week, we gathered all of our offices, and when you go all of your offices, we have Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Hilbert, Wisconsin, Black River Falls, Wisconsin, Coates, Minnesota, Hopkins Light Rail, Minnesota, and the Rocheport Bridge Project in Missouri. We had over 50 women on a virtual luncheon for an hour where each office introduced each other and all that stuff. We had lunches brought in, but I get to show you guys that picture of my rock star team at the light rail currently working on the project. And I'll give you a quick thing. You of course see me in the back, you can't miss me. Hey, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt, shocker. Next to me is an accountant on our project, Laura. Next one is quality control on our project. And then we have another accountant. Then we have another Rosie with me, that is Gwen Cook, one of our drivers for the project. And then we have Joyce, our glue, our front office person, another accountant. Then on the bottom row, red shirt, civil engineer Rachel. Then we have our operators. We have Izzy in blue. We have, oh my God, I almost said Megan, in black. And then we have next to her with the hoodie and the backwards hat is Alicia. Alicia is the only female concrete pumper in our state. We took her from Econ Placers, from one of my dear friends, Dick Tuzig. No, we didn't take her. She was laid off.
Okay.
And we didn't want her to be laid off, so, you know. But you guys, to have those 3 girls, 4 women from the field be able to be released from the busy project, come in that day, was awesome. The conversations were awesome. Our next get-together is gonna be out in the field. I promised them we would bring the lunch to them. So it was pretty cool, it was pretty dynamic. We're gonna continue to do it at the LMJB. It was really tough doing it virtually. It was nice, but it's tough. And of course, our guys said, wait a minute, what about us? So, anyways. And the other picture to the right, Finance and Commerce, Top Women in Construction Gala, closed out our Women in Construction Week. Barb and I had a great time. Many people from the AWC were recipients. It was awesome, it was beautiful. We had many women from the Light Rail Project, DVEs and stuff there. But the great thing is why this picture is the individual that's up on the stage is this year's recipient of the Outstanding Service to the Industry. I wish I could have jumped up there and handed it over to her, which was great. But Heather from Dunwoody is one of my favorite partners to work with in regards to women in construction. Stellar rock star, so deserving, and it was a great event. It was so awesome to see people from field to project management, behind the scenes, government. It was well represented.
I think that's what I appreciate is that, just the promotion of not only trades, but there's other avenues and paths and career paths to the construction industry.
Yep.
So,
Thank
yes,
you.
kudos.
Yeah.
Is
Thanks,
that
Barb.
her picture, the lady from Denwood on the screen?
Yep, and her on the stage.
No, you said that, but I just wondered if that was also,
Can't see the
Yes.
stage, you can see the screen
You can
better.
see the, yeah. Yep. Next slide, please. Mike's sleeping over here. No,
Oh,
just kidding.
Jesus.
this is really nice.
Watch your potty mouth. No, sorry. Squirrel. I'm so glad you're. All right, so there's our DBE meet and greet. We already talked about that. But look at that picture down in the left corner. I think it's rocking. It's awesome. But look at the room. It was packed. It was great. Yeah, I can't say enough. So we'll just move on to the next slide. Oh, PWS was highlighted too because they're our mentor protege. So that was fun to have them there. Thank you. Okay. Alrighty, you guys, last week was my favorite event to date. We hosted our second Talk with the Trades event at the light rail office by the LMJV team. This was specifically that for Building Strong Communities program, who currently, their cohort this year has 2 classes taking place right now with 80 in one that is funded by Excel Energy for their Power Up construction programs. And the other is their ongoing Building Strong Communities 5th year cohort for construction. So we had advertised for 2 months now that we were having this highway heavy focused event. We had 6 of our unions there, our 4 signatory being the 49ers, cement masons, carpenters, and laborers, as well as our other 2 big ones, the iron workers and electricians. So there's the 6 union stations we had. Who was at that station, at each one of those tables? We had representation from Lunda, LMJV, from leadership of that trade, also field people from that trade, as well as our partner at the union, whether it be an apprenticeship coordinator or a trainer or a business rep. We had 30 people from the LMJV union side there working on this, and we had 40 Building Strong Community participants attend and not want to leave. It was so dynamic, it was so great. The stories that were being shared, the welcoming, the talk about the trades and the our industry being a family and being a team. We've talked about it forever. For these individuals to actually see it and feel it, and to be able to one-on-one ask questions about specific trades, about benefits, about experiences, about what to expect during the day was dynamic. We did do a survey. It was voluntary. We had 22. When I did this up, we actually have 32 surveys returned. And the 5 applications, no, we have 10 applications right now with the extreme excitement for me to tell you guys that I'm not going to give you a number yet because I don't want to jinx myself. It's not 10, but it's a number I've talked about since the beginning of this year that we have coming in for one-on-one second interviews, so that come May 3rd graduation, the hope is to be able to hand over to a certain number of individuals their Lunda LMJV hard hat and vest for their employment to start the week after graduation. The team that was there, you guys from Lunda, from the 3 main laborers, we don't have a lead and we're working on that. But we have a lead for cement masons, operators, and carpenters that have been with Lunda, you guys, for over 30 years. These guys are the ones who said, what are we doing next? What can I do to be there? How can I help? It's so cool. So there you go. There's that with building strong communities. I've gotten calls from the unions, not the people that were in attendance, but from their bosses saying, thank you. What more can we do? And it's a team. It is a team. It was great. It's fun with these guys. The individuals, look at the smiles of the participants. It's very exciting now to be helping them move forward. Those that I am not working with directly for the Lunda or LMJV, I am referring them to our trade partners on the project. Both the subcontractors on the civil, but also with the systems. I just told Mike about the electricians that are there that want to be a part of. So it's great. It's very, very cool. So there's that event. Any questions before I go towards moving forward?
That's my line. Are there any questions for Krista?
Oh, so sorry. I didn't even see that.
So,
Ta-da!
the 40 BCS participants, that, I take it that those are in the program right now.
They are current participants in the program, from either one of the cohorts that I described.
Okay.
And they are ones that specifically want to be on the highway heavy side of construction.
Okay.
Because I've already presented to them 2 nights via Zoom, even though it crashed on me. See why I don't like Zoom. And I've also done mock interviews with, oh gosh, out of the 130, I think I have myself gone through 60 plus mock interviews with these. So it was fun to meet them in person, you know.
Just wondering why you had over 5 applications.
That number has changed, but we are not currently hiring.
Oh, okay.
There are no open positions at Lunda,
Just put it in.
but there are now, they're not open positions, but we are creating pathways for individuals because the 3 leads that were there that day saw value in people that were there, that they said we need to embrace them and bring them into Lunda.
Got it.
It's really cool on the 49er side. There's a pathway that's reoccurring with Ryan O'Gary is our lead for the 49ers that works very closely with Steve Toohey and with Jenny Winkler and also with Keithia regarding women coming into the 49er role, the crane operators.
Yep.
We've had a Keithia. Now you saw the other 3 individuals that have all been hired at different times, and now we're already phasing the next one from this program into the women operators of Lunda. So,
Nice.
good questions, thank you. Yeah, right now I have over 10 applications, Gilbert.
Okay.
And I'd like to get as many that are interested to send them to me, and I will be referring them to our trade partner contractors. So, thank you. Elaine?
Any other questions? If not, we will move on
The
to,
next slide.
you're not done?
Hey. Oh, you know what, I can keep the next thing to myself.
Okay,
You
I'm
know?
gonna
This is coming from the person who says I'm not doing good enough good faith efforts.
Please continue.
I'm gonna mark this on my calendar. I make Barb Lau laugh.
I know why.
I'm sorry, Krista.
No.
Next slide.
Continue. That's it. We're going to JJ's after, by the way. I got approval. Huh?
I got a 6 o'clock.
Well, you're gonna get delayed because you're coming with us. Well, that's silly that you would even do that.
Shots.
We're going to JJ's. Jiminy Cricket. All right, please. Jeez. I'm not even gonna go, there's 2 things I'm gonna talk about. I already delayed your flight, I called in. There's a bird on the tarmac. You guys, May is gonna be super busy with some great things, and Julianne, take notes of dates. Because I'm inviting you personally right now. Oh my gosh. May 2nd, you guys, we have junior achievement coming to the light rail project with 30 high school students that are going to do the first ever Amazing Rails Race Challenge. Hearing this, May 2nd. It's gonna be dynamic. We have helmets to hard hats involved with it. I just got confirmation again from him that he is available that date. We will be doing a challenge with the kids in the morning and then having a lunch with awards. And we are going to be accepting donations for those prizes for the awards. So that's a great one. That's the first time. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be awesome. All of the trades are involved with it again. The other one is May 3rd. We have graduation for Building Strong Communities. I already told you we're gonna be handing off some, oh, I'm getting choked up, time to stop talking. Let's see, then there's this. Here you go. There. Take one, pass it on. The MinCon crew that we created back 10 years ago for the Capitol and for the Saint Stadium. We are now having its 10th year of hiring fair at the Carpenters Hall. What did we decide? May 14th. So, no, we will have over 30 contractors. I should be at that one. Coming up, so there's flyers. I also emailed it to everybody. And then we are in the works, and this is the other help? No. We are going to be doing our second Rockin' the Rails event this coming fall. Location to be determined. There's a great place in the works that we've already talked about. And it'll be, the main goal for it is to bring people in to the Building Strong Communities program by giving them the hands-on of Rockin' the Rails. There, done. Next.
There are no further questions. Mike, would you like care to talk about?
Julianne had a question.
No, I didn't.
I know.
No.
Thank you, Chris, that's awesome. All
Thanks,
right,
Mike. I'd love for you to join me on all those.
I will.
Okay.
The next slide. All right, so we participated in mock interviews at Summit Academy on February 23rd. Participated in the Aldridge Women of Construction Week on March 8th. It was a big deal. We flew all the women in from all over the country to displays, got them all together, field and, back office support. It was a great event. We will be participating in some of those events in May. Building Strong Communities does have a fast line to 292 now.
Lake Street works.
So that's a good partnership that they're building, that they get in the application process and the test taking. The proof's in the pudding. We'll see how they do on the test taken. But that's encouraging. So hopefully that'll help speed it up. Next slide. So we had in January I think we had 3,000 hours, mostly electricians and a carpenter, I believe. Electricians and equipment operating engineers. So just 3,000 hours from Gunner, Premier, and Aldridge were working that month. So that's that. Next slide.
Nice correction of your
Yeah,
slide.
no, thank you, John. And then the DBE working in January was Gunner Electric. I think they had 32 hours. Yeah. So it was a slow month in January. We really did start breaking ground, and we saw in February. March is picking up steady as well.
Any questions for Mike?
Like, what is the pathway? You said there's some sort of accelerated pathway.
Well, it's instead of getting sponsored into the unions, like for the laborers, the compers, or you have to get sponsored, it's a license trade. And you have to take that test to get into it. There's an application process to take tests. The Building Strong Communities are getting to take that test without, kind of bypassing the whole application process. And they're on a fast track to get into 292 with their thing. So they're not going to be evaluated with all the applicants.
Right.
There's an avenue for them to get in.
That's probably.
So they're working on that. And I have all the details that I don't know, but I know there's a fast track to it.
That's great. Thank you.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you all.
All right, committee discussion, try to fly through this, but I do have a couple things that I wanted to share. One is, I don't know if I shared this, but we have kicked off our contract with a third-party vendor to provide support services to DBEs. And we're working with Project Solutions is the vendor. And we've got good registration for this quarter. There'll be quarterly trainings taking place. As I just pull this up real quick. Construction safety is April 23rd. How to bid and estimate on council projects. We talked about this a little bit. The other thing about opposite to closeout, also mobilizations, and it's important to stress to our DBs, you know, especially when we're talking about light rail and working alongside railroads, the training and certification that's required. A lot of times our DBs are not aware of that. They don't put it into their cost along with other things. So how to bid and estimate, how to respond to council requests for proposals, May 28th, understanding the process of change orders, June 11th, and one-on-one business consultation can be scheduled individually. Project Solutions is actually a DB firm out of South Dakota. They've been doing that. They operate a few of the state DOT's supportive services programs for them. They have a lot of experience in doing this work, over 20 years, so we're excited to enter in this partnership. The other thing I want to mention is that the council is also doing a small business equity assessment of us. So part of that will be focus groups and things. The small business focus groups are filling up fast. The first one is actually full to capacity, but there are more that are filling up. The other thing I want to mention is that there are, we need to hear from larger, longer established businesses too, to get that perspective, challenges, successes, all of that. So that will be reaching out to our larger, longer established businesses as well. So yes, be on the lookout for that. And that's all I have. Anybody else have anything to share?
So Shanti, the DB support services, is it free to the DBs or is it cost?
It is free.
It is free.
They just put that in our scoop today, so it went out to.
Nice.
Thomas brought it to Sad.
All right.
Great.
All right. Elaine,
Don't
any
believe we
public
have,
comments?
yeah, we don't have any public comments. We don't have nobody signed up.
Awesome. Thank you for those. I
Thank
know
you.
we went over, so thank you. Mike, be safe, take your time, get into the airport. That brings us to the
It was
close.
still 4, we're not.
We're done
We're
early.
done early, but
We're
she
done
was going,
early.
I wasn't so sure, I was getting nervous.
Well, I had a lot more I could talk about, y'all know
I
that.
know you could do that.
But here's the
There was
deal,
no way this
isn't
could go
this-
2 hours, but she
isn't-
made it happen.
Isn't this the advisory, shouldn't they be advising and wanting to be doing these events with us, Michael?
You ready?
My Chicago friend,
Yeah,
you go fly back to your
we'll
nest.
talk for a minute, we'll talk, we're gonna do a couple coming in there.
You know, and you wonder why those participants last week enjoyed it so much. It's this type of conversation. You don't have it elsewhere, you know? So, see, I can get on my little beach here. The industry is like no other. So I did send out a great email today. Jenny Winkler called me laughing because she couldn't believe I said it at first. Because I said, that flyer I gave you guys was changed 3 times in the last day. And I said, finally, I don't care what one we use. I have other things to work on, getting ready for the DWAC meeting that none of you attend anymore. I said it. And guess what? I got responses.
You said that?
But they still, well, no, I sent it at 1:45.
Oh, today?
Well, here's the thing too, though.
Yes.
And not necessarily to DWAC. I mean, one of the things that I want to make sure that
You guys
The
can
council,
hand
as
these out
we're
to people.
moving
This is a
forward,
hiring fair.
that we do bring the right people to play as we're moving forward on other projects
Yes.
and strategizing. I mean, it's great to hear from people and hear their struggles and frustrations, but I'm all for working with people who want to develop solutions and trying to implement those. And as we move along, we're gonna need to hear from some of the folks. Yes, you, but some of the folks that used to come here,
Yeah.
I think are gonna be valuable. To some extent, I understand why may not be, what am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say.
It got flat for a while there because we lost purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, the purpose of this was all of a sudden, And this was before I walked into it. It was already flat. And people are like,
No.
I give up. I'm just speaking of an opinion, hun, right? But, and there was a lot of struggle of people at that time. We were just getting out of COVID. Everybody was off. Everyone was off in their own way, shape, or form, changed by so many different things. I have been personally reaching out to individuals that used to be here saying, hey, we want you back, we need you back, because of exactly what you said, Ashante, and I appreciate that, because to have that team here again, look at those cool events we're talking about that we can be doing, but guess what? Or actions, not just events, but actions and follow through, to actually continue forward on things. We need everybody working together. Why not take advantage of a table that you have that, but remember there needs to be content.
Happy Easter.
Gilbert,
Thank you, yes.
you're a walk out the door.
We,
Thank you guys.
all right.
Yeah, Sean, you had some,
Thank you.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, we're adjourned.
Thank-
I'm sorry. All right, adjourned.
Oh, oh shit.
When you came in, you said that you might be late, but you're here when we need you.